On this edition of Native Report, we attend a missing and murdered Indigenous women rally.
We then interview Tammy Suomi, a mother who lost her daughter and grandson to violence.
I just wish I could have been there to get her out of there.
And then we learn about Tewa Women United, a support group for women from the pueblos of the northern Rio Grande.
We also learn what we can do to lead healthier lives and hear from our elders on this edition of Native Report.
Production funding for Native Report is provided in part by the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Ernie Stevens.
And I'm Rita Aspinwall. Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, or MMIW, is a recent movement to bring recognition to the disappearances and murders of Native women and girls. While the movement is new, the issue of MMIW is not. Throughout Canada and the United States, a disproportionate number of Native women and girls go missing and/or are murdered. Tonight we will look at how one crime impacted a Native nation and the response by the community.
It's a missing and murdered Indigenous women staff, and we were blessed with the eagle, so we all had similar dreams, so we put her together and been taking her out everywhere. She's been all over the country.
I'm going to be gifting Tammy with this ribbon skirt so that she can honor Jackie in the ways that she wishes, and that we're going to give her this blanket to show her that as a community we're here for her and we're going to support her. You know, when a loved one's lost, you know, that trauma will stay with you for the rest of your life. So Gitchigumi Scouts I founded in 2018, and what we do is we search and patrol for missing, murdered Indigenous women and relatives, and we patrol our community to help lower the statistics that Indigenous people face by watching for predatory behavior. With MMIW, we have a lot of missing women who are still in the home, but they're missing inside themselves. They're struggling with that addiction spirit. And the area I live in, we struggle with drug and sex trafficking. And so she reached out to me and she was worried that her daughter Jackie may be missing. And I said to her that day, you know, Tammy, I'm gonna stick with you. I'm gonna stick with you until the very end of this. As Jackie's community, we're rallying around Tammy and we're demanding justice for both her, baby Kevin, and that unborn baby. When I talk about MMIW within our area, I say MMIWR, Missing, Murdered Indigenous Women and Relatives, because within our area, I've recognized that it's been a lot of men who've gone missing. And when I think about that, it terrifies me, because when there is an empty seat at the big drum, that should scare us all, because men within our community, the men are our protectors. And we're gonna continue searching for them and following up on any leads we get, even if it's like some random person has sent me a message on Facebook with a gut feeling, I'm gonna follow up on that tip, you know, because I have the resources to do that. Whereas law enforcement, they have specific protocols that they need to follow. I'm not a law enforcement officer, so I can be more creative in my searches, and I can be more creative in the way that I go about this, because I'm not bound by the specific protocols and laws and agreements that law enforcement officers have to follow. If it's an actual search, I will call upon the other scouts. There's about 10 of us, and what we'll do is we'll line up within like shoulder width apart, and we'll comb through an area. And we're just grateful for the men in our community who do show up and follow women's leadership, because MMIW belongs to the women, you know. But we made it very clear within this area that our men are our protectors and we need them to stand up. And after saying that, you know, every man within our community, they heard that, and they've been making changes, and they've been like stepping forward in ways that make the community feel safer. And that's my end goal, is to make our community safer. The reason I do the work that I do is I'm a survivor. I've been through domestic assault, I've been through sexual assault, I've been held against my will, and I've been in a position where a man told me that he was going to take my life. So I know what that woman felt before she left us, because I've been there. And I made a solemn promise that every time that I've been harmed, every bruise, every single one, for me, has become a steel plate of armor. And I'm going to choose to stand and protect other women in our community, because I mean it when I say not one more, because I've been there. And the men in my community, they listen and they're hearing us, because a lot of the men within our community, a lot of violence within our community, it started with our men, Like, when you take that from a man, that toxic colonial masculinity that are forced upon our men, you take everything. You have a generation of men who are told that they can't cry, they can't grieve, they can't feel. And if they can't feel, they can't heal. And we need to change that for our men. We need them to know that this is a safe space not only for our women, but for them. And if we can make men feel safe, if we could raise men with as much care as we raise our daughters, we can change the world. There's been men in my community who've been involved in that, and I don't want to shame them, I want to hold them accountable. I like watching these men hold each other accountable, because that's how I know I'm safe in my community, is because these men will call each other out and hold them accountable. And they'll uplift each other. Instead of shaming, they'll uplift each other and remind them that as men, we have a job to do, And I've seen that within my community, and I want to see that grow into other communities. Moving forward, when it comes to MMIW, starts with supporting the family. And so right now, that is my main priority, is making sure that Tammy feels heard and the Shabayash family feels heard, and that on both sides, they have the support of the community. With the pandemic, it's a lot harder now for my group and for me to watch for predatory behavior, because a lot of the times what we're reading is like body language and like different cues that women will give you when they feel unsafe, which is all within the facial region. And so it's really hard to tell if a woman is feeling uncomfortable or feeling unsafe. And with the current lockdowns and the quarantines, I've seen an increase of domestic violence. I've responded to multiple different calls where domestic violence is just like running rampant, and it's been 50-50. It's been both men and it's been women. And it's just been a scary time. 2020 has been a scary time, but I've also seen the community rallying around survivors, rallying around victims, and amplifying their voices, And these shelters they're packed, and some of them can only be at half capacity because of the current pandemic. So what I'm hoping to see is more community involvement when it comes to women needing help. That way, they don't have to go all the way to a shelter. They can stay with someone like local within the community. And I have seen a lot of that, especially within Fond du Lac. I myself have been involved in situations where the family believes this loved one was murdered and they're written off as a suicide. And we've seen that happen in multiple places all across Turtle Island.
Bonjour and Dinaway Magadadug. I'm Dr. Arnie Vineo. As Ojibwe people, we don't tell our creation stories unless there's snow on the ground. Winnebuju was half human, half spirit, and when the earth was formed, he named everything and he gave us our language. And he was wise, and he was generous, and he was foolish, and he was greedy. And the stories about him were to tell us as Ojibwe people how to be and how not to be. And part of me worries about telling those things, because maybe it's not my place to talk about Winnebago and to talk about our creation stories. And we have storytellers that do that better. But the thing that I wanted to talk about was something that happens to all of us, I think, an imposter syndrome thing, where when I was in medical school, there was a big part of me that thought maybe I didn't belong there, and one day somebody was going to come up and find me sitting in a classroom and go, aha, and I wasn't supposed to be there. But the truth is, I did belong there. If you're in school, law school, medical school, if you're in high school or college, you belong there. And you've earned that seat. And you need to be doing what you're doing. And this isn't just for Ojibwe people. If you're watching this, this applies to you. If you're someone that's working in a job that maybe you didn't want to be in and you're thinking about tech school, or if you're a single mom raising kids, trying to get your GED at night, you need to be doing that. And it's important to you, and it's important to us. It's important to all of us. And in these times of isolation, we do need to be reaching out to our elders. Those stories are with them. They remember. And you need to teach them how to Skype and how to Zoom. And we need to remember to call an elder. They've been waiting for your call. I'm Dr. Arnie Vainio, and this is Health Matters.
Tammy Suomi is the mother of Jackie Defoe and grandmother to Jackie's son Kevin, both of whom are victims of domestic violence. Tammy was willing to share with us her personal story of loss and grief. She hopes that her story and that of her daughter and grandson will serve as a wake-up call to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
That's baby Kevin's dad. There's Jackie. There's my grandson. And there's her older son. I felt I was all alone on this journey, fighting for justice for Jackie and not to have her be forgotten. I felt lonely in the beginning, but these people I met that were Jackie's friends and loved her and cared about her, I didn't know all these beautiful people, and they've helped me so much. Well, they were both silly, always laughing and smiling. Everywhere Jackie was, baby Kevin was right with her. When Jackie was pregnant with baby Kevin, she was homeless, so I took her in when she came time to have baby Kevin. I was there in the hospital room when she had him, and I got to see her bring baby Kevin into this world. I got a chance to be there. Jackie was a very independent woman, strong. People would say she couldn't get a job. She went out and got a job better than them. Somebody said she couldn't do it. She did it, and she wanted to make a better life for her and her son. The people who do violent crimes towards Native women or take them is a very cowardly thing to do. Like Sheila St. Clair, she's been missing 5 years. Nobody knows where she's at. But there's probably somebody out there that knows. Baby Kevin and Jackie, they take pictures like this all the time, doing this, random things that mothers and your babies do. And that was her little love. My grandson's birthday, he would have been 2 on June 18th, but he was taken away, and she didn't even get a chance to live his little life. He was a cute old boy. He loved his mama, and she loved him. I've been out to visit her once, and I do want to go back and visit her. My heart just breaks that she's not here. I can no longer give her a hug, tell her I love her, be silly, you know, doing silly dances and all that. I just miss her so much. And she always helped me out, and I helped her out, and I just wish I could have been there to get her out of there. But I miss you every day. And I'm not gonna forget her. I'm not gonna let her be forgotten.
Old, my mother was murdered. I'm a much older woman now. As tribal people, we know that we have budget restraints in our community galore, and we're faced with issues like alcohol and drugs, domestic violence, murder. Here with the men, and start showing them how to be scouts again, and start showing them how to really run their community. And all you women need me. You need to stand by me when I do that, because doing it alone, nobody's gonna answer to it.
Tewa Women United started in 1989 as a support group for women from the pueblos of the northern Rio Grande. Their mission is to provide courageous spaces for Indigenous women to uncover their power, strength, and skills they possess to become positive forces for transformative change in their families and communities.
Sengi tamu, neo huahi o povi, neo toa hawe, ne hapo o winge omu, ne ke atoa omu. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo. My name is Beata Sosi, and I work with Tewa Women United in our environmental health and justice program. I'm also a full spectrum doula that was trained through TWU. I have a background as an educator, and I'm really passionate about food and seed sovereignty work in our tribal communities and Acequia communities. Yeah, I've lived here in the Tewa region, Tewa Basin for northern New Mexico all my life. And I've been working with Tewa Women United. It's a nonprofit in Espanola, New Mexico for about 11 years now. We have our circle of grandmothers, our Saya'ing, that are a lot of them are the founding mothers of Tewa Women United, and they also are pretty fierce community organizers and activists, and that are also that traditional intergenerational support within the organization and for a lot of our outreach and interactions with the community. And it came together originally as just a support group for Pueblo women because of all the issues they were facing in their communities and their homes around substance abuse and physical, sexual abuse, addictions, alcoholism, suicide, all the things that a lot of communities are struggling with under colonialism. It grew from that into the nonprofit. This year, you know, because of COVID, we have had to scale down our community events, and there were some annual events that we had every year. Here at the Espanola Healing Foods Oasis, this is a project I've been managing for about 5 years now. We're in our 5th year working on this project. We've here in the garden every year for Regeneration Fest, we would usually do like a ceremonial tree planting. And so we partnered with Northern Youth Project that we've been doing some collaboration this summer and mentoring of youth on Indigenous sustainable design at their garden. Yeah, it was just a way to still reach out to the youth of the community, have something for them to engage in a positive way. have something that mirrors that idea of what Regeneration Fest is, which is to show young people that they're loved and cared for. And I think, there's a really strong metaphor when it comes to planting trees that is a commitment to the future and not always seeing the fruits of your labor, doing it anyway because it's going to benefit somebody in future generations or even your own self maybe like 10 years from now. So a lot of the stuff here that we have planted is real baby trees, baby medicines, baby foods, but everything's edible, medicinal, or herbal. This whole garden, these initiatives around reconnecting community with that ancestral energy of our food traditions, of our land-based culture is really powerful. It's a strength-based approach to environmental health and justice, to where we know that we need strong bodies, we need strong immune systems, we need to be nurturing these spaces where we can remember how to use these, be in relation with our plant elders. And they were here before humans were on this planet. So the Espanola Healing Foods Oasis is unique because it is really very much based on the story of place. It's very much a collaborative project between the people of the community, the organizations within the community, whether they're birth workers, farmers, herbalists, teachers, educators, youth workers, all different walks of life have come and professions have come through this garden. And the garden really is an intersection for all the social justice issues. And because it is a dryland rainwater garden, it's teaching water conservation, it's teaching indigenous agricultural techniques of farming in the Southwest. It's keeping that resilience of our seeds by growing them out consistently in this climate. It's an outdoor educational space. We just opened a seed library in the public library next door in March this year, where any plant you find in this garden, you could go to the seed library and get seeds for those plants. So we're harvesting seed. We're also growing annual vegetables, like Three Sisters and amaranth. It shows those methods of water conservation at the same time, of looking at water as a resource and not a liability, which is very Western. But at the same time, while it lifts up indigenous techniques and science and technology, it's also recognizing the benefits of working alongside Western technology. So we have a modern drip line system integrated with the garden, and so it shows the rapid solutions that can come with balancing Western and indigenous science and technologies together. Which is what we kind of need right now. There is an urgency in coming up with a lot of these solutions, even as a response to environmental pollution, where we're doing the myco and bioremediation workshops here, which can clean pollution up to zero. It's pretty rare for a city entity to collaborate with a nonprofit on this scale. And that was a big learning process, even that alone, of just being in partnership with the city of Espanola on this project and having it in a space that's accessible to everybody. And we do want to replicate this in other, in Pueblo communities, but this was a good pilot project to create that template.
Buju Gakana Neshna Beg, Nindajini Kaz, Migazi Benes, Mesquabikang and Dunjaba Migazido Dam. My name is Nathan Gordon. I'm the Redcliff Band's vice chairman here for the tribe. I think overall the sovereignty, to myself means, the ability to exercise your own rights. Here in Redcliff, for the band here, it's, again, you can govern or, make regulations and oversee your own people. But exercising your sovereignty, hunting, fishing, and gathering, we had that when we signed the treaties. For me, it's exciting. It gets handed down from generation to generation. There's old timers that used to go fishing, hunting. For this place, we can hear stories upon stories that get passed down years after years to their children. And now we're starting to see their children getting into the fishing and going out on the boats now. So again, to me, it's real exciting, that they're out there exercising their treaty right. you know, in making a sustainable way of living for themselves and their families as they move forward in a time that we're, you know, hit with currently. I think overall the pandemic, you know, it hit really hard, you know, around the area, and then over time it slowly came in. So again, we never know what tomorrow's gonna, you know, bring.
For more information about Native Report, look for us on the web at nativereport.org, on Facebook, and on YouTube.
Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors across Indian country. I'm Rita Aspinwall.
And I'm Ernie Stevens. See you next time on Native Report.